Like the Gospels, the book of Daniel isn't history, but something else altogether. And that's just as well, because its details are not 100% accurate. No matter. It perfectly illustrates God's warning to Israel long ago about the likely downsides of having a king. The prophet Samuel had told them, "Kings will only treat you badly, endanger many lives, and get rich at your expense." That was how foreign rulers rolled anyway, an endlessly repeating pattern. Once Jerusalem's top people were carted off to the capital of the new Babylonian Empire, they would see dubious kingly behaviour up close. And what's more, they would be subject to that authority too. King Nebuchadnezzar's dream had hinted that however successful he was, his kingdom would go rapidly downhill afterwards. After he'd spent some time as an outcast, a renewed respect for Israel's God saw him restored to Babylon's throne. But his successors would not improve things. Enter one dubious descendant named Belshazzar, not even vaguely tolerant towards the captive Judeans' God. In fact, his utter disrespect for their most sacred objects would mark him out, not in a good way.
"Oh, it was just another blessed feast. This bloke were at it all the time. No wonder he was so corpulent and unattractive. Us girls used to call him Belly. But he still had power over his male and female subjects alike. And he'd amassed a whole caravan of wives and mistresses he could parade at every opportunity. Oh, didn't impress me. But I'm only a handmaid, Jewish one at that, to one of his harem's number. So beneath Belshazzar's condescension, thank the Lord, like I said, it was just the latest excess. Feasting and dancing and drinking, and another round, and another. Oh, and one for the road. His elevated position was merely an accident of birth, but what a big noise he thought he was. That night he was showing off to some visiting worthies. They were looking pretty bored by then. Seen one drunken ruler, you'd probably seen them all. Quite a number of us palace servants were of Israelite heritage. It seemed exotic somehow, I suppose, having foreigners wait on him, like having a troop of trained monkeys. We'd little choice, but it weren't all bad. Belly could be just as brutal as his predecessors, though. And maybe he had noticed me rolling my eyes at Zilla, 'cause suddenly he yelled for the bodyguard captain. "Sign trouble?" "Nah." Instead, he demands the Jerusalem temple vessels be brought from his strong room, flashing a smug grin in my direction over the mountains of half-eaten food still laying there. My mistress, give her due credit, she did try to dissuade him. "But Belle, my dear, the very finest Babylonian craftsmanship is right here. Gorgeous vessels of silver and gold, inlaid with precious stones. They're a million times more impressive for our esteemed guests. Surely." I surveyed the ornate tableware, hand-wrought goblets, vast centrepieces echoing the images on the city walls and gates. I mostly filtered out the idolatry. I might have been born here, but our faith had been drummed into me since I was teeny tiny. We might have no home to call our own, no monumental holy temple anymore, but we still had the Lord, and we followed his ways as best we could here. The raw bully, well, he weren't going to back down, even if my lady was his favourite wife just now. She'd taken a risk, even trying to intervene. Women are expendable to Babylon's king. I nodded briefly to her. So few bothered about our feelings. But our sacred vessels, even being here, were bad enough. That heathen guzzling babble and plonk out of them, passing them round his guests and cronies, that was deeply offensive. Here's to gods of gold and silver, he crowed laughing, bronze, iron, wood and stone. Lord, what arrogance. Just as I'd decided not to watch any more, something weird happened. I rubbed my eyes. I blinked a few times. Belly, well, he saw it too. It were right by the most ornate lampstand, fully lit. There seemed to be a hand hovering. No, not a person, just this great big disembodied hand. As the thing began to move, milady gasped, and his Madge gave a violent belching grunt, pinching himself under the table. In its wake, symbols began to appear on the plaster, like rebellious graffiti in a public thoroughfare. Now, I can't read Babylon, but it weren't that. General consternation. The guests started jumping away from the table like rats off a sinking ship. Belly staggers to his feet, dropping a sacred cup onto the table, and he roars, "What is this? What does it mean?" The colour drained from his florid cheeks. His knees buckled. "Bring me the enchanters, Chaldeans and diviners," offering an obscene reward for a competent interpreter. Oh, those magicians, they scuttled in like cockroaches from under the kitchen bin. But they hadn't a clue. Belly's head were in his hands by now. Thing vanished, but the writing didn't. I leaned forward and I whispered, "What about my Uncle Daniel, my lady? He told King Nezar his dream, remember?" Bravely, Madam made another little speech, quite eloquent, about my uncle. Belshazzar, they called him now. Spirit of the gods, enlightenment and understanding, she accorded him. Oh, his patheticness sent for him pronto. He could feign respect when he wanted summat. When he arrived, Uncle Dan told Belly the past, the present, and his fortune. When will tyrants ever learn from history? The worthlessness of handmade idols. Who God really is. They were long, hard lessons for old Nezar. But Belly still put his faith in powerless knickknacks. Oh, the slogan? Mene, mene, tekel, and passing. Time's up, you lightweight. Medes and Persians will take your kingdom. That were about the strength of it. Oh, the star prize were Uncle Danny's. But Belly, he were done for. The writing were on the wall for him long before Thing pointed it out.
Being a defender of faith, or faiths, would probably have served the new Babylonian monarchs better, especially once they'd imported devout individuals from a conquered territory. But once again, absolute power tended to corruption. Not only, then, was Belshazzar publicly shamed for his sacrilegious actions, not only did he lose the throne altogether, but his lack of respect triggered the downfall of the entire empire. Resolute in serving the God of his ancestors, after years in a foreign land, Daniel found yet another opportunity to speak out on his and his fellow Judeans' behalf. And would the new incumbent, who favoured laws set in stone, learn from past mistakes? Or, as the heavenly balancing scales tipped, maybe the writing was on the wall for Darius too.